Hello everyone. In today's video, I will be showing off how to set up a dedicated server for Foundry VTT. However, there is a reason that we are looking at the screen that we're looking at today, because this setup, it will not be perfect for everyone. Your players will still be able to connect. You will still have audio and visual. However, in order to fully connect, your players will need to press advanced and continue. This may scare away some players, but hopefully they trust you as the GM enough to recognize that you're not trying to steal any of their information, and that the security certificate that is being provided by you, and they're putting their trust in you. And if they don't trust you, you can show them this video, but I hope they would trust you first. Alright, let's go ahead and start off by showing how we actually need to set up this server. And to set up the server, we do need to download some software. We're going to be downloading two programs. One is called Putty, and the other is called WinSCP. Putty will be used to actually get the server up and running, so let's go take a look at that first. So here you can download the software Putty. Most likely you need the 64-bit. However, if you need an alternative, you can double check your PC properties and see if you need the 32-bit. After you've downloaded the program, go ahead and install it, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step. So here is our program PuttyGen, and right now it just generated a random key. This is our SSH key. We need to do two things here. First is copy everything in this box, Control C, and we can copy it, put it in, WordPad, document, wherever you have that's safe. We're going to be using it very soon though. And the second thing is you need to save the private key right here. Save it on your computer, and wherever you save it, don't lose it. And also, don't give it to anyone else, because this is effectively your password for your server. So if someone has this SSH key that you're saving, they can access your server. Alright, so copy this, save the private key, and let's move on. For this setup, the server provider we will be using is Atlantic.net. The primary reason we are using it is because they offer 1 year free, and the 1 year free that they offer is for a pretty solid server that will run your Foundry nicely. There shouldn't be any issues. It offers like 40 gigabytes, and you can either get 1 or 2 gigabytes of RAM, I believe. But we're going to go ahead and create an account if you don't have one already, and log in, and we'll jump right into setting up the server. And we're going to be using that SSH, all of the text we just copied for the setup. There are other providers you can use, but if you are interested in Atlantic.net, I'll be putting my reference link down in the description. After creating an account and logging in, the first thing we're going to do is go to SSH keys and add a new key. We can give it a name. I'm just going to name mine Foundry 2. And I will paste everything I copied earlier and then add the key. After it's added, we should see it on the list right here. Now we can go to servers and set up a new server. Notice how it says try cloud servers 3.2 gigabytes or 2.1 gigabyte free to use for 1 year. So give it a name. Select Ubuntu 20.0 for LTS 64-bit. You shouldn't need any of this for what we're doing today. At least you can set up very easily without. So the next thing you need to do is just select a location, somewhere that's close to you and your players. Select 1 year. Select the cheapest package here, because you really don't need anything else for Foundry. I suppose since it says it's free, you could select a different one here, the 3.2 gigabyte, but it's not necessary. Just select this one. And then select your SSH key that you just created and create the server. And you are set, and the server will be up and running, but it's not really useful to you as it is now. So let's go back to Putty and start installing Foundry on our server. So right now I have Putty open, as well as I have all of the information about my server open as well. The first thing we need to do is we need to copy the IP address right here next to IPv4 information. Everything after the word address, we're going to copy that and paste it in to our box. I'm just going to type it for now, but probably easier to paste it over. After you're done with that, make sure you have SSH selected, port 22, and the last thing you're going to do is go to SSH here on the left hand side, authorization, authorization, and then that private key that you saved on your computer that I told you don't share with other people, you're going to browse and select that private key. And after you are done with that, you can go back to your session. You can go ahead and give it a name and save it. And we will see it here, making certain that you have everything set up in the way you want. You've attached the key. And if you've done all of those steps, you are set to go. And now, for the next year, you can just load this up, start it up as you need to, and shut it down as you need to. Although there's really no reason you need to shut it down, except it automatically shuts down whenever you update. That's about the only time. All right, let's go ahead and start up our terminal here and take a look and see how it appears to us. If things are going the way they should be going, you will get a warning that looks like this. And this might be scary at first, but all it really means is that you haven't connected to the server ever before. So just click yes, log in as root. It'll authenticate using the SSH that you had saved on your computer. And as we can see, we are in our server now. So let's go ahead and get started. Thankfully, there's actually already a helpful guide on how to take everything from this point forward. We can look right here. The first thing we want to do, since we're using Ubuntu, is we are going to copy everything here. And to paste it into Putty, we can't use Control-V. We just need to right-click. And it's going to go through and install. And then after that, while that's going, we can go ahead and do the next line. Copy and paste. And what this is doing right now is installing Node.js, which is needed to actually run everything else. Let's see, installing packages, cool. And while that's going, go to the next one. Copy this over. And as soon as it's done, we're going to paste this one in, and then we can look ahead already at what our next line is going to be. Okay, let's paste this, copy that over. Copy this one here as that's installing. What this next part here is it makes a directory, like the same way you can make a folder on your computer. It's going to make a directory in our server for everything to be stored. So make a directory for Foundry VTT. Again, very similar to how you'd have a folder on your computer. Make a directory for Foundry data. Sorry for the loud key typing. CD Foundry VTT, which redirects us to. CD is just a way to, like, if I understand it correctly, a way to redirect you to a folder. And then here we have wget hyphen, I believe that is a 0, maybe no, not quite certain without putting into a document. Sorry for those tech gurus that are following along. And then everything here we need to copy over except this last part in quotation marks. We need to actually go and log into our account on Foundry and find what we need to replace this with. Okay, let's go ahead and log into Foundry and I'll show you where you can find that. I do need to blur some parts so you don't see my license code there. So after you've logged into the Foundry website and you went to your profile and you found your license information, you should be able to see at the bottom here where we have software download links. You need to go ahead and click the link icon next to node.js. And what this will do is it'll copy into your clipboard a temporary link that you will be putting within the quotation marks for the wget. So that will actually grab the Foundry install, put it on your server as a zip file, and then you just need to go to the next line. So click this link, copy the code, and head back over to Putty. After you use the wget command, and you should see it get installed, or should get grabbed, I should say, then you need to unzip the Foundry VTT, just copy that next line. And then the last one is we are going to use node resources app main.js. Before we do that though, we're going to do one thing first, and that is we are going to install Linux Screen. So we're going to copy this first. The reason we are doing this is because Screen acts as if you are effectively creating like a separate tab on a browser. Same idea. Because if you have one tab on a browser, you can close it out. It will close out the entire browser. If you have two tabs and close that one tab, the other tab is still running. That's the way I think about it, at least. So we're installing the screen right now. Yes. Let this go ahead and run through. So now we are going to just type in screen, big capital S, hyphen capital S, and then a name like Foundry. And there we go. So now what is happening is we have a separate screen here that will keep running even after we close out the terminal, meaning that we can have our server running here. All right, after you have your new screen open, you just need to type in cd Foundry VTT, and then copy the last line there, node resources /app /main.js, copy everything over, paste, and if you've done it correctly, it should run for you just fine. And then your server will be running and you can access it right away, enter in your license key, and you will have full access to your server. However, we don't have the audio and visual set up, so we're going to go through how to do that next. If you did all these steps correctly, this is what you'll see. I've blurred out my personal IP address here, but you can see we have :30,030,000/license, so just enter in your license key here to get started. In order to use the camera and audio in Foundry itself, we need to have an SSL certificate. This is really easy to get on your own, but again, this goes back to where the players are putting the trust in you. So I'm going to go to this website here and just generate a certificate. And then I need to download these two files, the foundry.key and the foundry.cert. Now we will need to put those files onto our server, as well as we want to have a way to easily connect to our server and upload files all the time. Now there are a number of different programs you can use. It's called an SSH connection, like I think FileZilla is one, but the one that I personally use just because I'm familiar with it is WinSCP. I mentioned it earlier in the video, and that is what I'm going to download now and install and then set up so it can connect to my server. The setup for WinSCP is really similar to the one that we had earlier for Putty. Click New Site, set the username to root, paste in your IP address underneath hostname, click Advanced, go to SSH, off, browse for your private key file, and after you've done all of that, you can log in. You will get the same warning that you had before where it is the first time connecting. Just press yes, and then you will be okay. And I will show you what it'll look like. After you're in, it should look something like this. We are going to navigate into Foundry Data, Config, and then right here, this is where you're going to put both of the two files that you downloaded earlier, the cert and the key. So I've started my server back up. I'm going to do the same thing as I did before and make a new screen. Go to cd Foundry VTT. cd Foundry VTT. And then I'm going to copy and paste that same line we had earlier to get everything up and running again. And we can see that the server is running once again. Let's go ahead and check it out. If everything was done correctly, you will need to type HTTPS before typing in the name of your server, and you will need to click Advanced and continue as I showed off at the beginning of this video. Alright, but that is where we'll wrap things up. There is some more that you could do, obviously, and as I mentioned earlier, there are better ways to do this, but I think this is probably the simplest and the fastest way to get things up and running for your game. Alright, let me know if you have any questions down below. I will help out as much as I can. Again, this is not really my area of expertise though. I will fully admit that right now. Thanks everyone.